There's one problem that every new keyboard and mouse player faces. For some reason, you can't learn the input or improve no matter what you do. How many tutorials you watch, how many easy fixes and insane settings you try, and you just end up switching back to controller. Whether this describes you or you just decided to switch, you've come to the right place. This is a complete guide to switching to KBM and becoming the next Booga as fast as possible. I've got a crazy bonus setting for you guys later in the video, so stick around till the end. Without further ado, let's get right into it. The very first step, which you guys probably already have down, is obviously making sure you have a decent mechanical gaming keyboard and gaming mouse with 2 side buttons. These 2 buttons are going to become very important when we're binding our builds. Next step, which is also very important, is setting a good DPI on your mouse. DPI is basically just the base sensitivity of your mouse itself. While it is not the same as your in-game sense, the 2 sensitivities actually work together. I recommend 800 DPI. It's not too fast or too slow, and a lot of the top gamers in Fortnite like Zemi use it. That's personally what I use too. Every mouse usually has a small button either on its top or bottom, which switches the color of a small light that is at the bottom of the mouse. Each color represents a different DPI, and you can find out which DPI it is either in the manual or online. Ideally, you should buy a mouse that has a decent range of DPIs, for example, 400 all the way to 3200. On the topic of sensitivities, your in-game sense should vary depending on how high the sensitivity your mouse already is, and your own preferences. For example, a good starting place for someone with 800 DPI would be an in-game X and Y sense of anywhere from 6% to 10%, and for 1600 DPI, which is also pretty popular, an X and Y sense of 3% to 5%. All of the other sensitivities, which seem quite alarming, are completely up to you, but you'll have very good understanding of which ones you want as soon as you figure out your X and Y. Also, make sure your X and Y senses match. Ideally, the DPI and in-game sense should complement each other and reflect your own preferences and playstyle. Whether you prefer a higher sense or lower sense is something you will find out pretty soon after messing around with your settings for a bit. The next step is finding good binds, especially good building binds. If you have checked out the default binds and settings already, then you know that they are absolutely atrocious. Of course, I can already tell that some little Timmies watching this video right now will be like,
but pros like Booga use the default binds and they're super cracked at the game.
That is true, but they are very limited. The default binds force your fingers into extremely uncomfortable positions. Even if you have freakishly long fingers like Cypher PK, they make it so you can't click the different buttons fast enough, or even worse, you can't click other important binds while you're pressing these keys. Optimal binds allow you to perform many important functions, like moving around while doing other stuff, like building, checking your inventory, and switching through your weapons, heals, and utility. While the binds you choose may vary, a good rule of thumb for WASD movement is 1 building bind like a floor for your actual thumb, 1 building bind like your cone for your pinky, and 2 building binds like wall and stair for each of your mouse side buttons. You can definitely change this around a bit for what feels better. For example, I have my side buttons as floor and cone, and my wall and ramp as Q and E, which I press with my ring and index fingers. A good editing bind is just a button you can reach easily with your index finger like R, E, or F. You should also have your selected building edit binded to left click, and I personally have my place building, which is the button you use to place all your builds, as right click, but make sure that it's either left click or right click. All of your binds, including the many we haven't discussed, are completely up to you and what feels the most comfortable, as long as you keep these 4 things in mind. The way you naturally tilt/position your keyboard should impact some of your binds. You should be able to at least move forwards and backwards at all times, as well as jumping, crouching, and or sliding. 2 of your building binds should be on your mouse side buttons, and the other 2 on your keyboard. Your inventory slots should ideally be on the number row, but you can place some more important ones on other keys that are easy to reach. Double movement. For the longest time, controller players have had a huge advantage in terms of movement, specifically diagonal movement. Everyone knows that when you hold down W and A or D, you move diagonally in that direction. But for KBM players, this diagonal is only 45 degrees, while on controller you can full sprint completely sideways, but be looking forward the whole time, which is super overpowered. The only way that keyboard and mouse players could ever come close to this was by installing a separate software, which was bannable, or taping down multiple keys on their keyboard, which just sucks. Finally, Epic added a custom diagonal setting, which allows you to do this on KBM. Once you find the setting, turn it on and make sure to change the forward diagonal angle, which will be at the default 45. You should find your sweet spot somewhere between 65 and 80. You can leave the other two settings the way they are, as they don't make a very significant change. You can still mess around with them and possibly find something that works for you. Finally, let's get into the good stuff. There are 5 other very important settings, and once you enable them, it will feel like you're cheating compared to how you were playing before. First is confirm edit on release. No matter what anyone says about the advantages of having it off, there is practically only one situation in which it's slightly better, and that is when you're doing a peek like a peanut butter, and this setting makes it easier for you to both be completely protected and line up the shot before you edit, while with confirm edit on release, you have to go behind the wall and edit at the same time and then look for a shot, which won't be as easy because you're moving your crosshair a lot. While this can be a bit more risky, with a little bit of practice, you'll be able to peek just as well. And confirm edit on release just makes everything faster because you don't have to click another confirm button, or you don't have to click your edit bind again just to confirm the edit, which is super slow and you'll mess up a lot. So if you don't have it on already, which basically would have made editing on controller impossible, go to your settings, click on the gear icon / game tab, and scroll down to where it says auto confirm edits under building, and make sure you have it on. You can have both selected, but it only makes a difference for controller because on KBM you don't have to confirm resets to begin with. While you're here, again under the building section, make sure that the turbo building and reset building choice are both on, unless you want to have the same skill level as the default from 2017. But there is also a 4th setting here, disable pre-edit option. This one is completely up to you. If you have it off, you will enable pre-edits. This will make it so you have a little bit less delay in your editing, but pre-edits can be very annoying as you can accidentally mess up your builds. I personally have this setting on. This disables pre-edits, which makes my building and editing consistent, and there really isn't that much delay once you get the timing down for your builds and edits. I can do multiple quad edits in a row with this setting turned on. Finally, this is the most important setting that absolutely every keyboard and mouse player needs to have: scroll wheel reset. If you guys ever played on controller like me, then you know how painful it is to have to click 3 different buttons just to reset a build. Even when Epic added this beautiful setting, auto confirm edits and resets, you still had to hit 2 different buttons. On KBM, all you have to do is scroll the mouse wheel like ½ centimeter and your builds will reset. It can reset multiple builds instantly. To enable it, go to your keyboard bindings tab in settings and scroll down to building. Because you can bind multiple buttons to one action, in the second empty space next to the edit bind you have already selected, bind scroll wheel down or up, then at the very bottom next to reset building, do the exact same thing to match the scroll wheel down or up you already binded. And boom, you've got scroll wheel reset. Try it out, and if it doesn't feel like you're cheating, and I honestly don't know what it does. And yeah, that is everything you need to know to start becoming a pro on mouse and keyboard really quickly. I know it can be hard and you might want to switch back to controller, but don't give up. Trust me, it doesn't take long at all to become better on KBM than you could ever be on controller. If this video helped y'all out, please consider subscribing, and if you need some motivation for making the switch, you should definitely check out my 1-week progression, which is absolutely insane. Later.